This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Man, just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barreiro's Top 5 at 5.
Let me offer this gift, potentially, if you look at it that way. If you feel strongly that you have A-grade Top 5 at 5 material, we can start it now. We can try to stay on schedule, take a break, and have part 2 of the Top 5 at 5. Because I don't have a lot else. I got it that's stuck in my craw. So I'm going to give you that opportunity. If you want to let it breathe a little bit and you say, no, I got some stuff, we can come back. That's not unprecedented for us to extend the Top 5 at 5 and turn it into the 520 Sports Fix. I'm just offering it as an option.
I think I've got 5 good stuff,
okay,
but I think we can fit it in if you want to stay on schedule.
Whatever you want to do, I have no problem with. Because I want to give each of these stories proper time. I don't want to go so quick, so surfacey, that we leave the listeners wanting more. That's the last thing this show ever wants to do, even though it probably does it on a daily basis. Anyway, you're saying.
Well, we'll get into at least a couple of them now. The Open does say, in case you missed it. And I get that we've talked about this extensively, but it is the breaking news of the day. It is the A topic. It appears the dream, Aaron Rodgers, or for me,
or
a lot of people, nightmare, that Aaron Rodgers will probably not be coming to the Vikings. They're sticking with J.J. McCarthy. I wanted to bring this up because I don't really think we've talked about this angle of it. If you're Aaron Rodgers, because you were saying, well, maybe if, JJ takes a step back, then maybe Rodgers will be. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm not hanging around until preseason to find, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
No, you're either retiring or you're going to the Steelers, essentially. Because I think the Minnesota Dream would be dead if I was him.
Well, that's a fair point. I think the question was, is it possible he calculates this out and says, I think I have 2 legitimate choices. One is to somehow land in this incredible opportunity in Minnesota or retire. And I'm in no hurry. I don't need any bold proclamations. Who likes milking a story more than Aaron Rodgers? So what I'll do is I'll say no to Pittsburgh for now. And realistically, they'll have to go on to somebody else. The Giants the same way. And he can say with a straight face, I'll leave one option open. If I don't get it, I'll retire. And guess what? Somebody will give me a network gig if I want it. I mean, it's not like he's going to have to sort of fade away if he doesn't want to, or maybe he'd want to fade away to a darkness retreat. I don't know. But I don't think, if he's desperate to play, then he goes the route you say, which is I can't risk the unlikely possibility that the Vikings revisit this for whatever reason later, and then I have an opportunity. I want to play. I want to be assured of my ability to play. In that scenario, then obviously, he's not going to wait. He's going to go to Pittsburgh. But maybe he doesn't look at it that way. Maybe he says, I'm fine doing nothing, but if I do anything, I'll leave my option open to the possibility. I don't know what was said between him and this team. We have no idea how deep the conversation went, what kind of, if it ever got to the point of negotiations or whatever. I just found it interesting that .com Tom, in his original scoop, used the words "at this time" as it pertains to Rodgers, which I thought was very carefully worded. And that does that mean he's definitely coming later? No, but it would indicate that the Vikings might want to hedge their bets a little bit, depending on what I guess you could say the sequencing goes with JJ, what they find out about him through the certainly the mini camp periods as well.
Do you think
you can? There's no rule. Now, there might be contractual things and salary cap implications in terms of when you sign and when you don't that might make things more complicated. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if Rodgers is close to retirement and says there's only, not saying this publicly, but in his mind saying the only place I'm interested in going to is Minnesota.
Devil's advocate on the the qualifier sends the for now. Do you think that's a little CYA action going on? Just in case that something changes, you can.
Yeah, I guess or it could be that was the wording that was conveyed to him. And then you're back to why do the Vikings need to CYA unless they're trying to say, now it's possible they're trolling. That's another possibility, that they're having fun with me and everybody through this whole thing. But I'll say again, my belief, and I know within media outlets that it's very competitive and there's disagreement here about how this has been reported. But I don't think this was a non-story. I do not believe this is an invention of people wanting to keep this story alive, that it's just too juicy. It's the conversation. I trust the reporters who cover this team to believe that the conversations were real. But I'll say again, anybody who listens to this show has heard me repeat dozens of times, literally dozens, that it's still less likely. I'll be much more gobsmacked if he ends up here than if he doesn't. That was the sort of, from the very first day, I think that was the position, which is different. You can't ignore reporting that says they're talking about it. They're thinking about it. Something is percolating there. You can't tell me that isn't part of the reason they haven't already signed a backup quarterback. I'm just telling you, that's part of it. Was they now maybe have crossed that bridge and have said, okay, now we're ready to do it. But to a certain extent, until they do, I think I'm never going to completely shut the door to the possibility of something happening later.
Subject 1A, what was your favorite Cam Robinson moment? He signs with the Texans, so no longer with your Minnesota Vikings.
Look, he served a purpose. He wasn't great here. He wasn't bad here. They needed somebody at left tackle. They no longer need him. I did the proverbial "we didn't need him" joke, and a couple people said, I get the bit, I like the bit, but I don't think we need him. And I think most people who know me would probably understand that I don't really think that the Vikings need Cam Robinson either. But it's an itch, unfortunately, that I'm incapable of not scratching.
Do you want to?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's straddle. Let's do the straddle. We'll come back and we'll give you a chance to air out this particular top 5 and 5, and then prepare for a very special K edition of the program that's coming up as well.
And just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now it's time for Dan Barreiro's top 5 at 5.
All right, the 520 Sports Fix extension of the top 5 at 5. Blakemore is in for Guardsy today, tomorrow, and Friday. So go right ahead. What else you got?
Well, let's go here.
Time now for the obligatory Kevin Fallness Minnesota Wild mention.
Yeah, the Wild back in action late. Puck drop because of a national TV clipping penalty. So 8:30 puck drop, probably closer to 8:45, knowing that. So pregame starts at 8:15 right here on the Fan. Last game, they did this.
The crowd rising as Turcotte left side, deep into the Wild zone, around the net, threw it in front, nobody home, and that is going to do it. Gustafsson, one final save at the horn, and the Minnesota Wild get back in the win column. Boy, do they need this one. Power play strikes twice, an empty netter late, and they beat the Kings 3-1 here in St. Paul.
Yeah, it was a good win against the Kings. We're happy for you. Going to need another one tonight. But the other news that kind of came out, which we already kind of knew, but are you familiar with Frank Saravalli from Daily Faceoff?
Yes.
He basically said the Wild have, quote, no timeline on Kaprizov. I'm here to tell you, because I've been told a million times, Kaprizov has to have a run-up into the playoffs. You want any chance. If he doesn't play in the regular season, it is a massive missed opportunity to not put him on LTIR.
Yeah, it will be. Well, there's no question about that. And it is a little concerning. I don't think it's that different than what Russo has kind of been reporting. And I've tried to take the high road on it to say maybe this is a strategy where Guerin doesn't want to get locked in because for all the obvious reasons, and it's going to be easier just to slow play it. But that slow playing it doesn't mean that deep down they don't have a date in mind. They just don't want to proclaim it. The other side of it is they don't have a date in mind because they've got no clue that he's even close. And, here's where it gets tricky, too. Based on what Russo has told us, Kaprizov and his agent are kind of driving a lot of this bus in terms of even the doctor that was used. So then you get into, and this is the way it works anymore with superstar players, no matter the sport, teams don't have the control that they used to. So, to that extent, does that make it any more or less likely that he ends up playing? I don't have any idea. Is it make it more likely there might be some miscommunication between the two camps? Yes. I think that is indeed possible. And the longer we get to this, basically the closer we get to the end of the regular season, the more worrisome this whole thing is that in the end, we're going to end up. Now, and then there's another X factor. We don't know, has there been a setback or two? I don't think the team is interested in proclaiming those publicly. We went through this a little bit with Towns a couple years ago when he was hurt for an extended period, and we come to find out there was a setback. But that just starts a whole new spiral of coverage of negativity that this team may not want. But that's another part of this. Maybe the rehab has gone a lot slower than expected. Maybe there have been a couple of other hurdles that have taken place as a result of whatever procedure was done, surgery, whatever was done in his case. So it's ominous sounding, right? But it has sort of kind of, I think, felt that way for a while.
The Fan has learned puck drop tonight, 8:52.
That's kind of late.
In St. Paul, Minnesota.
8:50. This is all TV related. Yeah. Somebody told me in one of the conference tournaments, was there a game that was actually scheduled for a start time, Eastern time, of 10:55? Which now, if there's 8 overtimes, I guess you can't control what came before. But that this was sort of built into the schedule, that's a little absurd, is it not, to have a college basketball game starting at 11 o'clock? But yeah, I mean, in this case, it's all TV, right? So I assume we're the second game of the doubleheader.
I think so.
Yeah. We must
unless both the conference teams are West Coast teams, 9 o'clock for them.
By the way, did you see the young Russian whose name I can never pronounce? Didn't he have games with back-to-back goals?
Who's Nadinov?
Yeah.
Yeah, funny.
Because I did do we didn't need him in that case, and that got a lot of reaction as well.
You know what else is funny?
What?
Remember the guy I wanted? If we were going to go
which
after
one?
Dylan Cousins.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
He's lighting it up in Ottawa right now. Lighting it up.
Well, that was probably the best name out there. The most attractive name, because he's not old.
Yeah, he's 26.
Yeah. So I mean, you're getting him in his prime.
Yep. Didn't need him.
Didn't need him.
We wanted to spend $5 million on a grinder instead.
All right.
Hey, the Wolves are back. They're hosting the very bad Pelicans tonight at 7 on the Timberwolves channel, iHeart app. The winning streak got snapped, but the Wolves should be shoe-in for a win. If this is a scheduled loss, it should be the easiest of easy wins. The Pelicans have nothing to play for.
Yeah, as you say, there's back-to-back games with the Pels. They're a mess. They're not very good. And the Wolves are trying to recover from a very disappointing loss at home to the Pacers. They had some hope maybe of leapfrogging Golden State last night because the Warriors sat a very tired Steph Curry and hosted the Bucks. But guess what? Nothing goes the way it's supposed to. So sure enough, Golden State without him knocks off the Bucks. So we lose another opportunity to perhaps leapfrog them and gain some ground. So that's the way this thing goes. All the Wolves can do is continue to try to win as many games as possible, get to 50 victories before the end of the season, which not that long ago looked like a pipe dream, given the way this team was kind of meandering. But that's still a possibility if they take care of business. But to a certain extent, they didn't do that in the case of the Pacers, and they got burned.
In other news, NFL news, there's been a bunch of signings and people. I think Wongwu just got signed somewhere. But the Lions, this is what I found the most interesting. They proposed a new rule change to playoff seeding in the NFL, which would basically use your regular season records as opposed to the division championships. So under the proposal, the division winner with the conference's best record will still receive the number 1 seed. So that's the same. But after that, teams would be stacked by records regardless of whether they won their divisions or received wild card berths, which obviously that's a response to the NFC North being dominant and way better than every other NFC division.
So is this one given any chance of gaining any traction? Because, I mean, there's a lot of proposals that go. Didn't the Lions also have a proposal that, unlike, was it pass interference where it wouldn't be an automatic first down? Did I read that too? But individually, a lot of teams have a lot of ideas. But the question is whether which of these, really has much of a chance to go anywhere.
Yeah, well, there was the tush push. That was from Green Bay.
Right.
That was from my club.
I endorsed that. I was with the Packers on that one, but that's not going to be ruled out of the game, right? I think this is still part of it.
And then, it says in the article, a proposal that would eliminate automatic first down that comes with an illegal contact or defensive holding penalty, also submitted by the Lions.
Okay. So it wasn't pass interference. It was what was it? Defensive holding or what?
And illegal contact.
Right. Okay.
Which, funny, the Lions led the league with 11 flags for defensive holding.
That's the tough part. I think it's an arguable position, a defensible position, but are you going to pay attention to it when it comes from a team that most dramatically would profit from that particular change? I think that's probably why it's being dismissed largely.
Last but not least, before we get to Kessie, the NCAA tournament starts officially tomorrow. I think first tip-off is at 11 a.m., something like that. On a scale of 1 to 10, are you a bracket filler, watch every game, have 4 screens person, or are you just whatever you see, you see?
I'm not. I'm one of the few people. How many people are left in America who do not fill out a bracket? 5? Maybe 10? I'm one of them. I used to do it. I had fun. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It just does not appeal to me. I mean, I will, like I said last night, I had the play-in games on in the background, and then when the first game ended up being a really nice finish, I got into it. It was a fun game. And, it's the time of year where you don't care. In fact, you probably prefer it when it's schools you don't know much about. That adds to kind of the charm of it, obviously. So I'll pay attention. I'm going with to see. I'm very curious to see whether Richard Pitino, who last year I think he got knocked out in the first round, Pitino joined us yesterday. I think they play Friday. I don't have a game time there. I'll try to follow some of the local angles, and obviously Colorado State, in a sense, becomes a local angle because their head coach seems to be the leader in the clubhouse to be the next coach at the University of Minnesota. So. And then what we like to do on this show is, because there's games going on while we're on the air, we do some live listen-ins when things get kind of interesting because the atmospherics are generally very good. So we'll do all those things. So, yeah, I'm into it that way, but I'm not obsessed. Are you?
I follow the local angle. That's about it. I fill out one bracket a year, basically.
Okay. That's one more than me. All right, good job sort of extending the top 5 at 5 into the 520 Sports Fix. We will, though, attempt to stay on schedule. Pat Kessler, Special K. Very busy day for Kessler. He will remind us what he was up to earlier today about 11 o'clock. Actually, same thing I was a year ago at this same time. I've got a couple of breaking news stories beyond the always robust Kessler list of topics to discuss. We should laugh. We should cry. We should have fun with it. All of that is coming up next here on The Fan.
I wish the American media would take a great look at the views of the people in Congress and find out, are they pro-America or anti-America?
Pat Kessler. Because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
I can't trust Obama. He's an Arab.
Pat Kessler.
Tear down this wall.
Hippie counterculture.
I did nothing wrong at the Minneapolis airport.
Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
Pat Kessler.
And now, to help Dan break down all the tough questions in politics, it's our own
Pat Kessler.
Political Wonk.
Shot him.
I feel like a
Killed him.
supermodel, except like times 10.
It's Channel 4's
Pat Kessler.
with Dan Barreiro on The Fan.
It is indeed Pat Kessler time here on The Fan, as is often the case in studio. Pretty much most Wednesdays. A very busy day for you today, sir. You had the honor of revealing and introducing the Minnesota Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame class of 2025. It was a duty I was given the year before. Couple sources told me that shortly after you finished up your bit on it this year, that you turned to Tim Hyde and a couple of the other big shots over there and said, I pretty much blew away Barreiro's performance from last year, didn't I? Can you confirm or deny it?
Well, I didn't state it. I didn't make the statement. People came up to me and said it to me.
And you didn't disagree?
I did not disagree.
Yeah.
Well, all I can say is that throughout it was my great privilege and my great honor, Dan, to announce the 2025 Hall of Fame. I mean, this was a rare privilege for someone like me. And all I can tell you is that throughout my 15, 20-minute presentation, people were applauding me. That's all I'm going to say.
There was a lot of emotion in the room.
A lot of emotion. They were applauding. Every time I would announce them, people would applaud, which I assumed was my delivery.
And the class, how many were in the class? Was it 6 or 7?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Well, why don't you give, for the record, for those who've not paid attention
let's just
to
do
this. You don't have to go deep bios on each.
I won't.
But give us the names and a little bit about each of the individuals who you introduced as being members of said class.
Well, the names are some classic radio, particularly in outstate Minnesota, as we call it, with radio networks. Dennis Carpenter.
You call them the broadcast peasants, which I think is a little patronizing.
These are my people, my friend.
All right,
these are my people.
Okay, so
are you kidding me?
All right.
These are the most important people in radio in the state of Minnesota, and I believe everywhere. I do believe, despite all the bloviating that we do here, and I'm just speaking for myself, not you. When you're in a small town and you have a radio station, this is the lifeblood of the community. The sports, the weather, the city councils, whatever it is. So so we have Dennis Carpenter, Brett Parody, Al and Linda Kornstrom. These are radio folks of great renown all around the state of Minnesota. Caroline Lowe, the former WCCO television investigative reporter.
A compadre of yours. You worked with her.
Yes, absolutely. And nobody knows this is coming. That's the thing. Caroline Lowe, for her investigative work, for her breaking of the glass ceiling, the only female cop reporter back in the day when it was a male-dominated thing. And then one of us, our guy Lou Nanny.
Yeah, big.
Named to the Minnesota Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Here is my surprise with that. Honest to God, I did not. I thought he was already in. Is that okay? I mean, he has been such a part of the fabric of the state of Minnesota as first a hockey player, a manager, a broadcaster, and specifically Lou Nanny, who can talk about anything, is the voice of the Minnesota State High School League's boys hockey tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And think about it. How many years has he done this? 66 years. That's an incredible accomplishment for somebody like Lou Nanny, and somebody who, in fact, this is after he was with the North Stars, after he was in the 1968 Winter Olympics and the 76 Canada Cup, World Championships in 76 and 77. This is after all of that Lou Nanny is doing this.
Well, the thing I've mentioned is, again, he did all kinds of other broadcasting. He was on a lot of national NHL games for a while. He's done plenty of that. And a lot of the other things that you're talking about, people go, well, that's hockey. What's that got to do with broadcasting? But I will maintain that if your name becomes synonymous with easily the most treasured sporting event in this state's history, you don't need anything else.
Have you seen?
I mean, that just speaks for itself.
When you look at the crowds at the Minnesota State High School tournament, the boys tournament, it's incredible. It's incredible. And Lou Nanny, 6 decades of dedication to the boys hockey tournament, and he is immortalized in this state. He is a pillar of Minnesota's hockey community. So he's in many different halls of fame.
Yeah, I'm trying to ask him how many. He's in, I think, double-digit.
Okay, so he's in the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame.
Right.
He's in the International Ice Hockey Federation Hall of Fame. I'm sure he's in the Delta Sky Club Hall of Fame.
Well, I know he's in the Balsam Lake Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he's got to be in that.
Sure.
He's got to be in the First Class Lounge Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But not in a Broadcasting Hall of Fame. After 60 years as a broadcaster, Again, as you mentioned, people associate Lou Nanne with the boys' high school hockey tournament. And congratulations to Lou and all of the others in radio and television who were nominated today and will be inducted in a wild. It's going to be a wild ceremony.
Here's what's interesting about it.
In October, by the way,
and then this year it is in Stillwater.
Stillwater, yeah. Stillwater.
So Louis has told us this story before, decades ago, and he would be able to tell us the date. He came remarkably close. I mean, he was very tempted because, are you familiar with the name Jerry Buss?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, Jerry Buss, now deceased. His daughter, Jeannie Buss, runs the Lakers now. He had the Lakers, he had the Kings, etc. Huge, huge name as an owner in the sports world. Jerry Buss wined and dined Louis to get him to run the L.A. Kings.
No.
A long time ago.
I did not know this.
Louis, he has talked about it with us on the air, and he was tempted, I think, but in the end, he just couldn't. He had too much, he thought, invested here, whatever the case may be. But yeah, he could just as easily have gone Hollywood on Lou Nanne. Could have gone Hollywood on the bit, and we would have been. And he might not have ever been inducted into this Minnesota Sports Broadcasters Hall of Fame. That's
Broadcasters Hall of Fame.
That's exactly right.
No, I need to back up a little bit because I left out a very important person. That is my papers got shuffled here.
Oh, okay.
Terry Train.
That was the other name. You're right.
Terry Train.
Yes.
From the KQ Morning Show, who was on for many, many, many years.
Correct.
And she is the voice, of course, of warmth, of humor, was, speaking of bits, I mean, she was part of many bits with Tom Bernard, who's also in the Hall of Fame. So, congratulations also to Terry Train, one of my favorite radio personalities of all time.
All right, let's do this. Let's switch it up. We're going to break now, and then we'll be able to extend into the 6 o'clock hour without further commercial interruption. Kessler is with us. There's a lot to get to on his menu. And then I got a breaking story that definitely got my attention. We're also going to have to include, I'd had hopes of getting your guy, Lou Raguse, on, who's been covering the Feeding Our Future story. There's 2 new verdicts today.
Yes.
Both guilty. And these are kind of big ones, at least certainly a big one in the case of Amy Bach, because Amy Bach was a big shot in this thing. And they came in fast. 5 hours deliberation.
That seems very fast.
Guilty across the deal. So you and I might have to discuss some of that as well. So that's the plan. By the way, the play-in game number 3, the first of the night, has just begun, and we'll monitor that a little bit. And looks like Americans already in trouble. Mount St. Mary's leads American 3-2, less than 1 minute into the first half. So stay tuned.
Get ready, basketball fans. We're hosting an all-day KFAN tournament watch party at the Rabbit Hole in Minneapolis this Friday. Stop by from 7 to 9 p.m. to catch all the action with the Power Trip's Max Fuller. And make sure to score limited edition Unreal Tournament hat online or on site for unlimited happy hour pricing on food and drinks. Skip the line every night through April 7th. Full details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Wild late start tonight, you said, right? 8:50?
8:52.
8:52 tonight. That'll be on the flagship. I assume we'll have the play-in games on the Plus, right? KFAN Plus tonight. I think that's what we had last night until we went over to the Fan. But it won't be on the Fan tonight. And then all kinds of coverage tomorrow between the Plus and us as we have our first full day in the tournament, the NCAA tournament, the big dance tomorrow. All right. I don't know if you even saw this story, but it definitely got my attention. Apparently, this is the story's via NBCnews.com, but I think a number of outlets are writing about it. And it's a joint statement that was released just within, I believe, the last hour or two by the GOP chairs of the Senate and House Armed Services Committees. And it is allegedly in response, Pat Kessler, to a story indicating that Trump DOD, Department of Defense, wants to significantly restructure the combatant commands. Here's the quote from the Republican chairs of the Senate and House Armed Services Committees. We will not accept significant changes to our warfighting structure that are made without a rigorous interagency process, coordination with combatant commanders and the Joint Staff, and collaboration with Congress. Such moves risk undermining American deterrence around the globe and detracting from our negotiating positions with America's adversaries. So, couple questions. A, do you think they mean it? And B, would this be, if it's legit, one of the few times that legislatively we are getting anything that might remotely be resembling pushback from pretty much saying to this president, floor's yours. Whatever you want to do, go ahead and do.
Now, this is a story that I've been hearing rumblings about during the day. I don't know about this particular specific statement from the GOP. However, there has been talk of a reorganization beyond the taking out all of the DEI from the DOD.
Right.
All of that.
Yes.
Removing Jackie Robinson and all of that. This is something a little bit different. If I understand this correctly, they want to consolidate some of the commands. And in fact, this would give someone other than a United States general control of NATO forces. Overseeing
Elon Musk,
NATO.
perhaps.
Well, you know, any general will do at this point, and he's the general of DOGE. So this would be the first time since Eisenhower that the United States did not have a United States general in charge of European forces. They want to consolidate some of the African forces with the European forces, and it could be a cost-saving measure. It could be efficiencies. It could be because the President of the United States does not like the configuration of the forces in Europe, our involvement in foreign entanglements, all of that, foreign aid, all of that. But this could be, if this is true, and I don't doubt you at all, that they're starting to push back. This is not about European or African or Asian security. This is about United States security. And if there are actual objections being made and being made public, I got to believe that they're going to take it seriously. I got to believe that although Pete Hegseth is in charge there, what do you do?
Well, to be continued, I guess. We have to see where this story goes, whether it holds up. But I do think it is fascinating, and it's getting, I think, some worthy attention for that reason. That there's the statement is fairly direct and fairly stern. It would seem to indicate a shot across the bow to say, "Hey, hold on a minute here." Now, again, whether that the resistance in this regard would hold up. What form would it take? I don't know, but it's definitely worth pursuing.
And I'm looking at it right now. This is the first time I've seen this statement, but they are saying that the Pentagon is considering giving up its role for the last 60, 70 years as NATO's supreme allied commander of Europe as part of the restructuring of all the commands and headquarters. Now, again, everybody's talking about reorganizing, new efficiencies in government. And you think about it, we have, I think, 700 United States military bases, and I'm going to say in 70, 75 countries. You know, take a look at it. Absolutely. It seems like this is one of the biggest and one of the most consequential changes that could be made. And yes, as you say, the Republican chairs in the House and the Senate say, and this is their words, we will not accept this kind of a change.
Let's go local next, and then we'll go back to national. Did I see this story? See if it's on your list or not. I thought it was, but whether it is or not, you're, I think, going to be prepared to talk about it. And I didn't get to it yesterday because I think it broke yesterday, and it involves some serious charges against a state senator named Justin, is it pronounced Eichhorn?
Yes.
I believe, he was supposed to have a hearing today, I believe, in federal court in St. Paul. I don't know if there's an update on that.
Don't see it yet.
Well, here it is, I guess. Charged in state and federal court this afternoon with soliciting prostitution from a Twin Cities police detective posing as a 17-year-old girl. What else do we know about this story?
He was arrested in this underage prostitution sting in Bloomington. There are different reports from the law enforcement agencies showing texts going back and forth between Senator Eichhorn and the woman that he thought was an underage girl, someone who told him, it was a cop. The cop told him multiple times that I'm 17. Well, how old are you? And said I just turned 17. All of that. So soliciting sex from a minor. He is accused now of trying to solicit sex. This is not just a terrible, terrible thing that he's charged with, and the legal problems are immense. But politically, what do you do? To their credit, both the House and Senate Republican leaders are immediately calling for his resignation from the Minnesota Senate, even though it's going to hurt them in a close political Minnesota Senate. They're calling for his resignation after the arrest. Governor Walz is also calling for his resignation. They say you just cannot have someone seeking this kind of connection with with literally a child, a child, family's child, to have sex with. And by the way, it was like 17 minutes after the Minnesota Senate adjourned the other day. The twist in this story, and this is bad enough. He is one of the authors in just the last couple of days in the Minnesota Senate. He's one of 5 Senate Republicans who filed a bill seeking to classify Trump derangement syndrome. That is a taunting thing. The Republicans say any Democrat who complains about Trump is suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. They want to classify it as an official mental illness.
Under state statute.
Under state statute. As an official mental illness. Now, this is more of that's where we are right now. These are Trumpy trolls in the Minnesota legislature. And in the bill, it defines TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, as a Trump-induced general hysteria exhibited by, quote, verbal expressions of intense hostility. And then they say, hey, we're just trying to help people. We simply want to help people who don't realize that they have a mental illness. So he's one of the authors of this. It's not going to end well. He's going to be pressured to resign. I would not be surprised if we see that soon. It is significant to me that they are calling for his immediate resignation, the Republican leaders. And we're seeing a lot of the Democratic senator who is charged with a felony for breaking into her mother-in-law's house. And she was arrested, and they are the Democrats say that it should play out, that she should get due process. And of course, Senator Eichhorn deserves due process, but I mean, how do you
come back from this?
How do you go to work?
Unless
that's my question.
Somehow deny.
And this is all alleged,
right.
This is all alleged.
Well, this was basically a sting operation, right? They had a cop play the part of was a 16-year-old girl. And,
yes.
And that was, and then they basically, the allegation is sets up, the meeting is set up, and then they're waiting for him. And this
went on for days,
right.
Where he continually tried to set up the meeting for day after day, according to the press releases from the Hennepin County and from the city of Bloomington. So, not a good look. And just as the Minnesota House and Senate are back in session, and here you go again.
So the DFLer, Nicole Mitchell, right, who was charged with 2 felonies in connection, that was where she allegedly broke into her late father's Detroit Lakes home, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. And she has pleaded not guilty. And in that case, to first-degree burglary and possession of burglary or theft
thank
tools.
you. So that is alleged as well. And the Republicans in the Senate have repeatedly tried through the Ethics Committee and on the floor of the Senate to expel her from the Minnesota Senate. The Democrats' position in that one is that she should get due process. It is not like this kind of a charge they are claiming. I should add also that Governor Walz has called for the resignation of that fellow Democrat, Nicole Mitchell. So he is consistent on this.
Let's get to this story. Did get my attention, and especially the amount of money being asked for. So the Minnesota Wild, there's been a lot of conversations that the Wild have said our building, as wonderful as it is overdue, right? For you got to keep up with the Joneses, you got to make changes, you always got to stay ahead of it.
Valid.
And so they apparently have approached the legislature to ask for a little bit of help. A little bit of money help to get the momentum going for this renovation. You tell our audience the price if they haven't heard of how much the Wild is asking for from the Minnesota legislature.
Okay,
it surprised me.
Yeah, I was a little gobsmacked by this. The city of St. Paul is asking for renovation $769 million. For renovation of the XL Energy Center, to overhaul the Roy Wilkins Auditorium, and the St. Paul River Center, to totally redo everything, make this the entertainment district of downtown St. Paul. That's a lot of money. That is a hell of a lot of money. The Wild would put in $216 million. That's a lot of money there.
Yeah.
The city, $159 million. The county, $159. And from the state of Minnesota, they would want $394.6 million. Let's say $395 million. That is a blank ton of money. Just a blank ton of money.
Yeah, right, correct.
There.
Yeah.
So on the plus side, they are the first out of the gate. So this is the Minnesota Wild, and I don't doubt that they need renovations. I've been to a few games there, and it's 25 years old. The quote is that they need to upgrade everything because it's at the end of its competitive lifespan. It's at the end of its competitive lifespan. Tell that to Williams Arena, by the way. But if it's 25 years old and they want to redo it, I guess that's the way we're going. The Wild are first out of the gate, ahead of the Timberwolves, ahead of the Minnesota Twins, but that's a lot of money that I think as we used to say, it's going to make people's heads pop up and their lips say howdy.
If you go back to the Vikings deal, how many years ago was that? And what ultimately did the Vikings get from the state? Was it $500 million? Was it $500 million?
Yes, it was it was $1 billion stadium. Let's just call it a cool billion.
Okay.
And the Wilfs put in 500.
Okay, so it's 5.
And then the state of Minnesota, Hennepin County, put in 5.
How far back does that go now?
Gosh, is it 10 years?
It's got to be more.
Hey,
well, but in
Brett,
terms of getting that approved,
it's 20 years, man. I mean, I followed this for years before it was actually approved.
But that's my question: is that it sounds strange, but I think I feel, and maybe I'm wrong, that there's no appetite for this anymore. Period. And because if you listen to what at least A-Rod and his associates, Mark Laurie, have said publicly, what they've said is we're going to try to get a new arena, but it's going to be privately funded.
You said that on this show.
Correct. Where you're sitting. And that's the trend anymore nationally, is that most places, no matter what the value might be viewed as, are out. They're just out of it. And I'm very curious to see what's the reaction on in St. Paul? Have we gotten much reaction from legislators at all? Are they dismissing this out of hand already? Or are they saying, we can talk about some things?
Well, there's some eye rolling going on here for sure. For the Minnesota Wild, that is a significant amount for a pro sports team to put in. I think $216 million is quite a bit. From the Wild to renovate this.
True.
It's nowhere near the 769. No. But the city is the one that is proposing to redo the entire entertainment district.
So, it's more than just the arena.
It absolutely is. We're talking about hotels.
Which might make it more sellable.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for those of us who have been to concerts in the XL Arena, they're great. They're great concerts, great. And they're now talking about building restaurants on the outer perimeter of the XL Energy Center. So that'd be cool also. You got to get people downtown, and particularly in St. Paul, where they have had some very, very bad news about the emptying and hollowing out of the downtown city center. This would be pretty good. Reaction is something where people will go, whoa, 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 man.
Yeah,
just
right.
hold off. Now, remember, it took the Twins, I think it took them 10 years. I think it took 5, 6, 7 years for the Minnesota, for the who was it? The Gophers, and then also
for the football stadium.
For the football stadium, it took a good
while,
10 years.
Well, I always thought the advantage University of Minnesota had.
While I'm on this, Dan, so now I'm getting texted.
Okay.
That there was zero Hennepin County money that went into U.S. Bank Stadium. Now, I don't think I said that, but just to reiterate.
Yeah, I don't think you did.
Yeah, it was all right. It was all city money. So,
well, we've said this. We all know that among the pro sports teams, the Vikings are easily the most popular. They're always going to have the advantage over the other teams. I just don't know if we're at a place where most places have said we're not in it anymore. We don't want to mess with any of it. Now, as you say, this project is bigger than just a renovation of the X, and maybe that's how you sell it. You make it bigger so it feels like we're not the only ones who are going to be profiting from this, and may even have some synergy for a downtown that's hurting badly in that regard.
And this is the capital city.
Correct.
I mean, absolutely. Now, remember that the U.S. Bank Stadiums paid off. Even though you opposed using lottery proceeds, the electronic pull tabs.
Right.
That's what paid it off.
Yeah, that's true. We mocked
Remember that one?
We all mocked it.
Oh,
I mocked it.
God.
I just think there was any way. I mean, no one believed that there was anywhere near this much money in there. Are we still doing? Are we done with pull tabs? Or are we doing it for something else?
Now they're trying to figure out what to do it because it's paying off all the debt service, all of that. And should it be used for the downtown improvement district? So I should say that St. Paul wants to use some of its bonds with the existing half-cent sales tax. That's how they would pay for it. So the revenues dedicated to economic development and the arena facilities, they could pay for it with that. But this is if this is $769 million, how much is it going to cost to build your Timberwolves arena?
Well, yeah,
let's say it's on that spot.
Yeah, right. A lot.
I mean, that's $1 billion stadium, isn't it?
I would think, but they're saying we're going to do it. Like the Golden State, the newer basketball arena that is in San Francisco was privately funded. Now, I assume if you're an owner of one of these teams, what you do is you go to the state or the state legislature for give us some tax breaks or give us some of those kinds of things for infrastructure. Otherwise, we're not going to ask you for any other money. I don't even know how that works, how that formula has been successful. But that's been the trend nationally is that the effort to go back to legislatures for more money, I think, is getting harder and more challenging as each year goes by. I mean, we've spent a lot of time on this show, especially in the wake of the Ben Johnson firing, debating the whole Williams Arena thing as how big a part of the impediment that is. And, we had Richard Pitino on yesterday, and it was interesting because, Guardsies burn it down. You got to start over. I'm probably closer to that than I used to be, but I don't think it's the problem. I really don't, to the degree that some others do. And what was interesting is that's what Pitino said. He said, yeah, it's not great, and you do need some renovation, but he does not think it's at the top of the list of things that, oh, my God, I can't possibly go there because the barn is so old, and there's all a bunch of blue hairs in there, and I don't want to be around anything that's not more modern. But if you listen to Coyle, when he's been asked recently about this, he's had an opportunity to sort of lay out the plan. In other words, he's been given the chance to say, yeah, you know what, we really are going to have to take a long, hard look at Williams Arena, and we may need a new one. He's run from that. He has said Williams Arena is Williams Arena, and it's fine, and there's some renovations we might like to do. But he's not sending out signals that he is on the verge of making any kind of aggressive statements. Which surprised me a little bit, too. Unless he's already read the tea leaves and gotten feelers out and said that. Because, again, don't you think historically, eventually, the legislators, if they're going to move at all on sports stuff, it's going to be for the university because of the feeling, well, the university can't go anywhere, right? Pro teams can go someplace. The U is, this is us, this is one of us, this is an institution. So it's easier to sell the idea of we're going to try to help them out as opposed to the greedy billionaires who own our pro sports teams.
That's one of the things that really helped when they built Huntington Bank Stadium back in the day. It did surprise me that Coyle said that because I know that there is some talk about that at the University of Minnesota, and maybe even some people drawing up some kind of on the back of a napkin plans on what to do with it. And it's my view, you might as well rip the Band-Aid off and just, if you're going to do it, just do it. And in 5 years from now, people are going to say, hey, this is just fantastic. At the legislature, however, if you're going to come and ask for money, and this is going to take years for this to get approved.
Right.
Remember that just last year, the trifecta of all the Democrats had a $17 billion budget surplus, and they spent it. They spent it on a lot of things that you don't agree with, like school lunches for kids.
Correct. And well, because I actually want the kids to get the lunches, as Feeding Our Future didn't.
Oh my God!
That's my silly me. I wanted the food to actually be there for those who need it.
Be there.
Yeah, more on that in a minute.
And paid sick leave and all of this kind of thing. So there's not a lot of money left. And as a matter of fact, they are now facing a budget deficit at the Minnesota legislature. So I don't know that there's going to be a lot of appetite for this, but this is just the conversation starter, and it's starting right now. And by the way, Leopold says, we don't want to move. This is our city. We're going to stay.
Texters come in. We don't have a lot of time left. Did Walz make some comments about your guy Elon? And because there's a text here indicating that there's talk about Tesla stock losing money. And this texter is saying, well, that sounds funny, I guess, if you want to rip Elon. But the problem is the Minnesota State Employees Pension Plan owns 1.8 million shares of Tesla. So his point is, if that's accurate,
pretty good.
And I don't know that it is, and I don't know if you do, that it's the old, you got to be careful cutting your nose to spite your face, if indeed there is that kind of investment into Tesla. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know about the investment of the state of Minnesota. I gotta believe that they're investing in things like that. I'm looking at the stock for Tesla. They are down, about 10% in the last week or so. They were up at 400 plus not that long ago. Now they're at closing today 235. Well, here's the deal. Your guy, Governor Walz, Tim Walz, is going to Iowa and then Wisconsin. He's going to Republican districts where the Republican members of Congress have declined to hold these town hall meetings. So he's having the town hall meetings, and he ended up in Eau Claire, I think it was yesterday, and he just ripped Elon Musk. And he said one of the great joys, he says, I don't like to name call or anything like that. And by the way, then he started name calling, swearing, profane, all of that. But he said, one of the joys that I get in my life right now is looking, I've set my phone to get an alarm on Tesla whenever it goes up or down. And he said, and one of the few joys I have in my life is looking at it and watching it go down.
Oh. Well, that must be what he's referring to.
Yeah, that's what this is. But he says, I don't think name calling is going to help. And then he calls Elon Musk a dip, you know what, on really? In this meeting, and he calls him a South African Nepo baby.
Yeah, I've heard that one. That was from a while ago, wasn't it?
He calls it in that. Oh, and did it maybe again? He should go back.
Right.
All of that. And so Walz is ramping it up a little bit on Elon, and to the point where Elon has taken notice and is now going at him on X. So this is just part of the Democrats, and particularly the second on the ticket for this losing ticket of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Where do you go? What are they doing?
Yeah, I don't. It's early.
What's the plan?
What's
the plan
to see where? Yeah. Oh, sorry about that.
So that's one of the things that's happening with Walzy. He is going.
Well, he's gone like full bore.
Yeah,
and he's all over the upper Midwest, isn't he?
Yes, and then he was on Gavin Newsom's podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's
and he
right.
said he could, with all these Republican, they think they're all masculine. Well, I could kick their ass. That's what he said. So I don't know. Where are we right now in politics? So that's the deal here.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. I appreciate it. There's a bunch more we can get to. There's a lot to cover. And we covered a lot today.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, there's some rumor. Are you about to do a podcast with Rosen and Don Shelby? Is that true?
Well, that I can neither confirm nor deny.
That would be a yes.
Although I will.
Apparently, Rosen. I got a text saying that Rosen has talked about it on air.
Not about me.
Oh
no!
Maybe you're going to be the last to know.
That's like when I got my Hall of Fame award. I was the last to know.
Yeah, that's how.
What a privilege and an honor.
It really is. And you did a really good job on the Facebook Live deal today. I thought you were a great host.
How about that? It was so good.
You were dressed a lot better than me, but that's nothing new there either.
Well, it was a privilege and an honor.
Thanks, Kessie.
All right, man.
Special K, Pat Kessler, 5, 6, and 10 o'clock. We'll give you a couple of nuggets regarding the Feeding Our Future, verdicts that did come in today in no short order. Actually, pretty short order, about 5 hours of deliberations as we wrap up the show.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
It's brought to you by American Pressure.
Approaching halftime, about 3.5 minutes to go in tonight's first play-in game in Dayton, Ohio. Mount St. Mary's 38 and American 34 is the score. Mount St. Mary's up 4 with about 3.5 minutes to go in that ballgame. I think the second game is Texas and Xavier tonight. All that action will be available to you via the Plus. Minnesota Wild hockey eventually tonight. Very late start, almost 9 o'clock. Pre-game show, I'm guessing 8:30, maybe 8:15. I don't know. Is it 8:15? Okay. Fair enough. We'll see if we can make it 2 in a row for Mike Yo, which is important. Wolves are back in action on the Timberwolves channel tonight. First of 2 games at home as they wrap up the homestand against the New Orleans Pels, the Pelicans. Real quick, thank you to Kessler. A real thank you as well to our good friend Gerald Posner on a very busy day to talk about the latest JFK assassination files dump that has taken place. He was excellent on that subject, as he always is, and a couple of other things as well. He joined between 4:30 and 5 if you podcast later. Tomorrow is Thursday, and right now we're wide open because I don't think we're going to be able to get Salisbury tomorrow. But maybe we'll do a Talker Tuesday on a Thursday. We'll see how it goes. I have a couple tricks up my sleeve for tomorrow night as well. Real quick on the Feeding Our Future verdicts today. Amy Bach and her alleged accomplice, Minneapolis restaurant owner Salim Saeed, were found by a federal jury guilty on all Feeding Our Future counts after only 5 hours of deliberating. This case went on, these 2 cases involved 30 witnesses testifying over 5 weeks. This is easily I think in Amy Bach's case, the biggest name related to this case as the Feeding Our Future leader. So, as I understand it, she and Saeed both were immediately taken into custody as well. I had hoped to have on Lou Ragoose, but he got very busy, so we might revisit some of the details regarding this story as well. Based on what we've read via testimony and the case, I think the prosecution, again, did a very good job laying out this case, which once again included some details that were released later that just kind of make you shake your head. Just a continuing embarrassment for this state that this went on as long as it did and took place apparently as easy as it did. And the brazen nature of the fraud that's involved here is pretty significant as well. So perhaps more on that later, maybe even with a guest to help us understand it all better. We are out. Fan on Demand is coming up next, and we will talk to you tomorrow at 3 o'clock.